I want to talk to you a little bit about switches or clipping triggers, and in particular, clipping out for entrances and approaches. Now, in a previous video, we've shown how to set up the template for the switches to work. But the first thing that you should check is to make sure your template is in working order, or the rest of this will not work. So, and what you need to check is the left shoulder, in this example, switch. So just make sure that it's working properly. You can do this by right clicking and testing the points horizontal for the way this one's set up. And you just check both sides. It'll eliminate a lot of problems down the road. So we're done with that. What I have here is I've got a control elements file set up. And this is kind of the way I recommend working. But you can do it in your corridor file. You can do it however you want. It's just the file, keeping these files separated seems to help. Now, the first method, we're going to talk about a couple methods that you can go in and use to switch off this back. And what I'm talking about is setting up something to automatically clip this out. And so that way when you put your entrance on, you don't have your mainline graphics running through it. Um, so we're going to do that. The first method we're going to follow is the single offset partial. We need to make sure the feature definition is set to this clipping trigger. And I would, you can name this left entrances or whatever, but for the time, just to save some time, I'm just going to call these, let's see, we're just going to add a left and a right to these to save some time, maybe. And make sure this persist snap is turned off. It'll cause you some problems down the road if you're not careful. So I chose to put this 50-foot out for this example. A lot of people like to set this out 300 or 400 so it's not anywhere in your plans. It shouldn't print, but it might be easier to select out there. But I'm going to put it right here because that's where I think it'll be easier to see. So what you do is you follow your prompts here, set your offset, make sure the feature's set, accept your name. You're going to pick what you want it offset from, and then I'm just going to pick. You can type these in using Civil AccuDraw. I'm not going to. I'm just going to pick them. And then we don't want to mirror it. So then I'll just add, and this will add ones to it. The only problem with this method is you're going to have multiple point controls for every entrance, which it's not the end of the world, but it is something to consider. So we'll go down through here, make sure you get the actual alignment. I don't want that. So I'm just going to add, I'm not going to make you suffer through the whole project, but I'm going to pick a few of these so I can show a few different examples of what we're trying to accomplish here. And I'll do just a few more. Bear with me. And this will be the last one I'll key in for this method. Okay, so what we've got here is these will be individuals, the way I've keyed these in. And if you zoom in here, you've got the beginning and end station. You can change the beginning and end station, or you can go in here and change the width for this clipping, and then it'll be 10 foot wide. All these are editable. Everything's heads up. If you decide you want to move this up off the sheet 200, you can do that. You just change that variable. And they're all set up the same. Now, the way this is set up, we would have to have point controls for every one of these. If you want to have, for instance, all these chained together because you want to have one point control, you can do that. You're going to use that with a complex geometry. Let's see, complex by element. Now, This will be important here. Set this to manual because the automatic may not get you what you want. It can do some funkiness when it's set up this far apart. Most of the time, this is set to like 0.03. I set it to 100 because I don't think any of these are further than 100 apart. You may set that to 1,000. Like I said, I like to have the left on the, have a, it's just going to make it easier to manage your point controls and find things. Unless you use the heads up, it won't really matter. But anyway, what this is going to do is we're going to call it left. Make sure that arrow is pointing in the proper direction because it depends on which side of this element you pick, which direction it'll go. That can kind of jack you up. So make sure you're pointing with your station. And now these will be one element. You've still got the same bars to manipulate them with the handles. Only problem with this is if you're trying to use it as one control element, you need to add one in the middle. You're going to have to recomplex them, which not a big deal. These would be entered as individual point controls, and we'll show that in just a second. So this will be the complex method, and then this will be the the horizontal offset and table and single method. They're both in here. And what you'll have to do is once you get these set up, we're going to hop into our corridor file, and I'll show you how those work real quick. So I run with both files open. So this is the clipping trigger file. I'm going to hop into my corridor file. The same file open twice. That would be a good one. Okay, there's the corridor file. Now, what you're going to have to do here, since I had the sessions both open to save some time from opening up these files, you're going to have to go to your reference files. And since this file, the control elements was updated, it's been changed. So just, you can reload it, double click it, or click it, it should upload. And then now you can see all of our control elements are in here. The rest of the work we're going to be doing is going to be in the bucket tool, corridor objects. You can pick them however you like to work. But let me see if I can make this small enough so you can see what's going on. The first method we're going to use is going to be doing point controls. So what you're going to do is add a new point control. And you can use the heads up on this. I like to use the heads up for stationing, just save me some time. And I'll show you something. So we've got that, the begin station, the end station, control would be left entrances, and then point, I like to select this point. And then this one we named left shoulder EC switch. It's going to be horizontal, linear geometry, and then it's asking for the plan element. We know this is going to be the left working trigger 1. So let's go through and add this one, accept it. It's going to clip this out. Now let's add another one. As you can see, one of the issues with the way I added this particular point control was it's going from its template drop to the next point control. So it's clipping out some of this information you may want. Not really a big deal. Most of designing these entrances is going to be a two-step process. You're going to get your civil cell, your corridor in there, and then you'll have to extend this out to match. But I'll show you another trick that you can use when you're adding these to eliminate that right out of the gate. So let's add one more and I'll show you. So we're going to go through here and add this start and stop station. Let's get everything set up just like we would want it. We know which point we're going to be using. Set switch, horizontal, the plan element, we're going to pick that one this time. But what I want to do is show you is if you add, like, this is the beginning station. So let's make sure our focus is set on there and do a minus, and you can do a 0.01 to 0.05. And it's just going to take a little bit off of that station. And then we'll add 0.005 to this. What that's going to do is force a template drop here, and you'll eliminate this gap. So let's go with the heads up control. So we know it's left entrance is, and we're going to accept that switch. It's horizontal, linear geometry. The plan element, this way if you don't really know what it's called, it's trigger 1, but pick that. And go through the rest of the prompts, and it should clip right to where I wanted it. And then that'll be married to the station, so if you change it out here, it would have your proper clipping. Let's add one more, and this one will be if you complex those together, like I showed earlier. And this, it depends on how you want to work. It doesn't really matter. So let's turn those start and stop blocks off. We can kind of throw you for a loop. We're going to pick this one. And we're going to pick the end of that. Then we're going to use our heads up prompts. So it's left entrance, locate the point. Pretty much select it from here if you don't have your template pulled up. And you got to keep it inside that box or it'll disappear like it did for me. It can be kind of aggravating. So our linear, and then we'll linear. See that we're getting all three of those. Don't want to use that. And it clipped those. Now, since this is one element here, some of the clipping's kind of jacked up. So what you can do, another option would be to drop a key station there. So let's do that. And what this is going to do is force a template drop also. So you could just pick it or type it in. It should recalculate that. Once we get this in here, we may have to reprocess our corridor in order to get that to work. There's the process corridor. Oh, let's move this back just off that just a little bit. It should fix it. Okay. Yeah, it was because I snapped onto that. So anyway, that's another option. We're going to talk about two other options to clip these corridors, and that will be probably a horizontal feature constraint. Let me see which file. You can do this probably in your control elements file would be the best place to do it. We're going to do it in here just to speed this up just a little bit. But the first thing we're going to do is, see why that's expiring, but we're going to do a horizontal feature constraint. So let's just draw, and with this method, you could just come in here and draw a geometry line, if you will, working clipping trigger. We'll call this one right, just for, just try to keep something consistent here. And we'll just draw a line in here. You could snap to these lines. And what you'll do here is let's pull up our corridor again. Pick this corridor. And this will have to be a, I think an external reference. Okay. So it was an external reference. I didn't click it properly. And you go back in and drop a key station to clean that up too. Let's think about the last, okay, one more method would be if you wanted to just use a parametric constraint. Let's see, this may be the least amount. You could probably just pick pick your entrance, pick your entrance, label constraint, right shoulder EC switch, fine with that. And what you do on this one is, since it's set to 10 foot in the template, you would make this any number. You could make it 11 foot and it should work. And this will automatically just clip it. Okay, so we've got that clipped out there. Same problem is it's dropping from the template. We're going to have to add a key station. We can add one more key station. You can add as many key stations as you want. Get this over so you can see it. And we're just going to drop a key station somewhere close. You can snap to it if you want. Should process and move it over there to that point. Grab that like a dummy. Let's see what it did. And that should be all, well, I'm not going to say it's all the methods. That should be enough methods so you can choose which one works best for you. I personally like having the lines in the file so you can modify them, but that may not be your preferred workflow. Let me know which one of these works the best, and we will talk more about that for you. All right, thank you.